And I don't think Jimmy Carter even knew what had happened to him. It's a sure thing he didn't win a second term in the White House, because we were manipulated in this country. Now, I wasn't manipulated. I'm going to have to do a little bragging here. I was not manipulated because I knew that what was going to happen was, where Jimmy Carter had deficits running 60 to 70 billion, I knew that we were going to have deficits running in the 200 billion plus range. In other words, these bankers were going to be able to loan over 3 times as much to the government. The deficits were going to be tripled, and I knew that was going to happen even if Ronald Reagan was promising the American people out on the campaign trail that he was going to balance the budget. You remember that. He said he was going to balance the budget. And I was telling people out here, I said, we're going to get the biggest deficits we've ever seen in this nation. And people thought I was nuts. But you see, time goes on by, and I was right. I was correct. Now, let's go over here to the pecking order in this constitutional republic, the form of government that the founders gave us back there with the Constitution for the United States of America. They had that constitutional convention back there in 1787. By 1791, December of 1791, we had the Constitution ratified, and we had the Bill of Rights. The first 10 amendments to the Constitution had been ratified by the states. We had an independent nation. It was a nation of independent sovereign states. Now, I won't get into that part of it, but here was the pecking order in the system that they gave us at that point in time. They put God, our Creator, at the very top. Go back and read the Declaration of Independence, and they talk about nature's God. Who are they talking about? They're talking about a Creator God. Now, they put the individual next in line. God didn't create this system. It was people. We the people created the system. You'll notice that the Constitution is below we the people. These individuals, that's what we make up as we the people. And they wrote the Constitution. We're not below the Constitution. I don't have any constitutional rights. My rights are inalienable or unalienable, whichever term you want to use, because they came from my Creator. And the founders understood that so very, very well. And so here we are here, and so now we have written a law called the Constitution for the United States of America. Not the Constitution of the United States. It is the Constitution for the United States of America. The United States, the municipal corporation in the District of Columbia, they have their Constitution. But the Constitution that is supposed to govern them is this Constitution right here, written by we the people. And that Constitution, of course, created the government, created the public servants. These public servants create the statute law. Case law doesn't fit over here in this system at all. Over here, it's case law that governs this nation today. And the corporation is on the bottom, created by the statute law. Now, if in that government class, when we went to high school, if they had put the contrast, if they had put these two pecking orders up on the blackboard in front of our class, and then said, now class, which system do you prefer to live under? Do you want to live over here in this system where you're up here at the top, where you're above the Constitution? Or do you want to be over here in this system where you're on the bottom and there is no Constitution at all here? The Constitution means nothing in this system here. The Congress of the United States, they wrote a law that's called the Anti-Injunction Act that says that if the IRS puts a a high assessment against you, you have to pay that money, you have to pay that assessment before you can have access to the courts. Well, the Fifth Amendment says you are guaranteed the right to due process, right? Well, how come they can do that? How come the Supreme Court says it's constitutional? Well, the Supreme Court, they say, we control. We are the ones that tell you what the Constitution means. Now, the difference, you see, if we take these two bars off this cage right here, here's your democracy, and the people are down here. This is your democracy, but we don't want that. I'm sure that the classrooms across this country, if they had been given the choice of which system they wanted to live under, what form of government they would like to live under, they would not have taken a choice that would make this monster, or let this monster be free out here in our midst. The people, if we had had this choice between the two systems, this would have been our choice. Now, I'm going to go to a little more detail here in my charts. Remember the pecking order, because the pecking order is here. Now, we want to communicate with our fellow Americans, with our countrymen. We want to communicate this so that they can help us to change this system, to put these bars back up here on this cage where they belong. To do that, we have to know what we're talking about. We have to understand the system ourselves. Now, you don't have to go back to college for another semester, another term. When this 2 hours is over, you will understand. You will understand how to communicate with your fellow American out there in how to bring back our lawful system. This is all in its proper order, everything, from top to bottom. We have God and God's law up here at the top. We have the laws of common sense. Now, common sense tells us that if you want to live in an orderly society, you have to have justice. And there's only one way that you can have justice in a system, and that is if you have truth. The professors out here in our universities and colleges are telling our kids, the students, that truth is an ambiguous term. I disagree. I believe that those people need to be put out of work. I believe that those people need to go back to school and learn some very basic facts. Without truth, if truth is an ambiguous term, you don't have justice. We don't have justice in our nation today at this point in time because of this education process where they're telling us and teaching us this garbage. Laws of common sense tell us that truth is the basic ingredient that you must have in place to have an orderly society. Truth, justice, morality, respect for life, honesty, integrity, these are the ingredients of an orderly society. Now, the founders said we're going to have a government of law, not men. If you're going to have a government of law, you must have a law governing language. You must have a discipline of language. You must have your words meaning, having good, solid, stable meanings, definitions. Remember, I showed you that tax audit guide where the commissioner of the IRS said our tax system is based on voluntary assessment and voluntary compliance. The word voluntary. There isn't anyone here. There won't be anybody in our audience, TV audience, that will not be able to give us a definition of what the word voluntary means. It's a free will act. There can be no compulsion. It is not mandatory. It is not required. But our courts, our judges in our courts, and our prosecutors in our courts are saying you must volunteer or you go to jail. That is a violation of the laws of grammar.